Hi, my name is Cecil Baumann, and I'm your host and the founder of the company Ganz in Bewegung. I'm a movement and Alexander technique specialist. My business serves holistic thinking people who want to improve their mind body connection. We are coming to you live from Zurich, Switzerland. Our interview session today is with Adriana Vela, also known as the brain science coach and an award winning author. We had the pleasure interviewing her last year. We are so excited to have her again. But before I bring her up, I want to share what I mean by mind-body connection. The Ganz in Bewegung system we developed includes 7 defining components of being human. For non-German speakers, the meaning of Ganz in Bewegung is the whole of you in motion, which includes your movement, your body, your surrounding, your experience, your emotion, your thinking, and it's all connected with your breathing and all is interconnected with each other. Our guest, Adriana Vela, named one of the 10 most empowering women leaders of 2021, is a best selling author, award winning entrepreneur, and certified brain science coach. With over 3 decades of pioneering work at the intersection of technology and cognitive science, Adriana has launched products, set industry standards, and founded 3 innovation driven organizations. Her insights have been featured in prestigious publications like the Milken Institute Report and Industry Era magazine. As a speaker and thought leader, Adriana empowers individuals and organizations to unlock their potential through a deep understanding of brain science and transformative leadership principles. She just released her third book, Brain Science for the Soul. Time to update your leadership playbook. Her mission is to improve the human condition by transforming leadership overwhelm into agility and adaptability for growth in an increasingly complex world. She envisions a future where the yardstick of leadership excellence is redefined to value holistic thinking, inspirational guidance, and the nurturing of future leaders. This is her call to leaders in technology and innovation to be the change agents for a new paradigm of leadership. Here's the link where you can get the book. It's an honor to have Adriana join us once again. As a dear friend for many years, I'm grateful for her continued support and expertise shared with us today. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Adriana Vela, please contact her directly. Now, let's welcome Adriana as I bring her up. Welcome, Adriana. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Cecile. It's always a pleasure, and I'm really excited about our chat today, mainly because I really want to make sure that I provide some valuable nuggets and put things in perspective because there's a lot of confusion out there about many different things, and what a good leader is, and we need to be able to get a good level set on that topic.
Yeah, yeah, and because it's so changing, everything is so transforming at the moment. It's really important to have somebody like you who is really an expert in leadership, and also don't forget the humanity, the human side of person, and not only the technical aspect. So I'm so happy you're here, and you can. I have so many questions, and I hope we get through all of them, but probably not. But let's start with your book delves into the intersection of cognitive sciences and leadership. How do you see physical movement and embodiment playing a role in effective leadership, especially in the context of volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambitious VUCA environments?
Yes, well, thank you. That is a big question, and so I gave this one a lot of thought because we're bringing in several different things. First, let me at least put the subject of VUCA in um, in context. So, for example, VUCA, you mentioned, yes, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So imagine that you are going towards a goal. You want to achieve something, the new position, become a better leader or a CEO or um, what have you, whatever it is that you are after is your destination, the destination that you choose. That destination is always going to be running into disruptions and sometimes complex issues. So if you are driving and you're in the driver's seat, because leadership is all about being in the driver's seat of where you want to go and what you want to accomplish. So you're on the road, and VUCA is sort of like being on a road like this, that where you may not have your phone charged, and you don't have the charger, so you're not able to access your GPS. You can see in the near future that you're going into a storm. You don't know what it's like, what it's going to be like, how bad, how it's going to affect you, but you know it's going to affect you, and you don't have there's not a lot of signs, so that's what causes a lot of uncertainty, and it can just change. You can have a flat tire. All these things are natural disruptions in your journey to where you want to go. Okay, so given that, um, you want to be able to have three major areas that are going to be something that you want to get a good hold on. And there are three areas. Let's say, for example, your brain, it will be focused on your fueling system. So you need to have fuel, and that fuel is your desire. That's your motivation for what you want to do. Then you also have your navigation system, which sets the direction of where you're going. And thirdly, you have your physical body, which in this metaphor, it's going to be your vehicle, the car you're traveling in. That's what's going to take you. So to achieve success, you need all three functioning properly. For example, the vehicle is not going to run without fuel. So you need that fuel to make it move. But at the same time, the vehicle itself, which again really stands for your body, needs to have other functioning systems. You need to have the brakes working and the lights, and everything needs to be operational. And that again is your body, but your body is the one that's going to be moving. So consider VUCA as the external factors. Now, VUCA, if this is your brain, then VUCA is the disruptions are the hand, and VUCA is the needle. Our brains are incredibly powerful, but they're also delicate, and they will be susceptible to the things that are happening around us, but also the things that are happening in us. And unless we are really in touch with what's happening in us, we're not going to be able to be solid enough to handle the things outside of us, like again, like VUCA. So let me put this into a diagram. So I mentioned your destination is this center part. That's where you want to go. That's your goal. Your desire is your fueling system, which I mentioned. And then your direction. I have never been a weather forecaster, so I don't know how.
You're doing great. You're doing fantastic.
Your direction is your map, and and
Mhm.
and your car is the doing. So there's desire, direction, and doing. Now, your desire, really the source of it is your heart, and that of course your desire has to be strong enough to be able to make you do what you need to do to get to where you want to go.
Mhm. Yeah.
And your direction is your ability to plan, set a plan in detail. What's the route going to be? Where are you going to be stopping? Where are you going to fuel up and things like that? That needs to be strong. That's your cognitive functions. And
Mhm.
your body is the one that that's going to be moving. So it needs to have the ability to move. You will not go anywhere if you stand still. Movement is incredibly important. Um, and it's not just a strategy, it is, by itself, movement by itself is one of the things that will function or that will act as a pattern interrupt. So, what do I mean by pattern interrupt? What I mean is that anything that has you stuck, whether it's an emotion, whether it's some ambiguity or something, and you're not moving, sometimes it's as simple as moving, changing your body from where you are immediately, let's say to another room. Even just
Mhm.
changing that external environment can change the way you think. So imagine this is why a lot of people, they work out their stress by working out,
Yeah.
and so I'm not just saying, oh, you have to work out and be healthy. Yes, you do, but I'm trying to convey the point of what it does to your cognitive senses. And,
Mhm.
and so movement is extremely important. And also remember, movement, your body is your transport for your brain.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's all connected, and your
Mhm.
heart of course has to be in it. So if your desire is not very strong, it's not going to create a lot of movement. It's not going to create a good plan.
Mhm.
If your brain is so convoluted, confused, or emotionally hijacked, it is not going to function the way it should function and not be able to deliver, a plan. It's not going to make the brain create a good plan for you. So those are the things that are incredibly important, and how all of these tie together. So I hope this has helped.
Yeah, I mean, this makes so much sense because, the big thinkers, they had the great ideas under the shower or while lying down or sitting under a tree. So it's really this change of where you are that
Mhm.
can make about a solution when you get stuck. It's a very good, actually, trick to change the room or do something completely different, work out.
It is incredibly amazing, because emotions are very powerful. So if the
Hmm.
emotion has you, let's say, enraged, for just a bit, you really need to, take a pause,
Hmm.
walk away. Like, even just like I said, even just going to a different room
Yeah.
will, will make a difference. And
Hmm.
because it allows you to do that pattern interrupt, that you're in
Hmm.
a pattern, you need to break that in order to get out of it. Otherwise you remain entangled.
Yeah, yeah, you are stuck somehow in the habit and react always the same way, the same destructive, most of the time destructive way. Wow, that was very good explanation. I really like how you explained it.
Yes. By the way, so you just mentioned something very, very good, which, as a reminder, because if this is not controlled and managed,
Hmm.
then your emotion can bypass your thinking, and because it's that powerful, and then create an action. And that action, since it doesn't have thinking behind it, it could be destructive.
Hmm.
And usually it would be, because you weren't able to pause to think about it and go in this direction, and take the right kind of action. um,
Hmm.
so it's quite important to have that movement and being able to manage your the emotions.
Yeah, yeah, because the brain is shutting down. If the emotions overwhelm you, then the brain shuts down, and only the instinct is reacting. Am I right? You correct me. You are the pro.
Yeah, well, so it's not that the brain decides to shut down.
No,
It
but it can't function. Huh?
run. It is overrun. It
Mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm,
skipped. You know, you don't go in that direction. You go straight this way, leaving out your ability to utilize your brain. So it
mm-hmm.
overruns it.
Ah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yes, it
That's
bypasses
good.
it. It goes directly
Mhm.
from here to action. And
Yeah, oh,
that
good.
action may not be in your best interest.
Yeah, most and even yeah, as a leader, you have to be very thoughtful about the actions you are taking.
Absolutely. You can do
Mhm.
like in this metaphor that I started with, you can get like so angry you rip up that map that
Mhm.
at the moment you just like we're so frustrated you did that. That's the action. But guess what?
Yeah.
You still need that map. You were still
Yeah.
it and now you ripped it up to pieces. So it's you end up doing actions that are not in your best interest because
Yeah.
they're not thought out.
Yeah, yeah, that's really that's it. You've been deeply involved in both technology trends, not behavior, and human behavior. So, technology trends and human behavior for over 3 decades. How
Yeah.
have you experienced shaped your understanding of how surroundings and external factors influence leadership effectiveness?
Yeah, so it really boils down to, like my primal need to
Hmm.
determine the root cause. This is what has driven me to in that area. That I have this primal need that whatever is happening, I want to get to the root cause. And the root cause may not be, you know, what I see on the surface. The root cause may be more upstream. And so if you have the any kind of issue or somebody brings an you're a leader and somebody brings an issue to you, it instead of just trying to fix that right there and then, but putting a band-aid over it or just dealing with it as short as possible, if you understand where that surfaced, now you can, and it might have been like upstream, maybe in another group or something, then you can, a good leader will look at what is going on there. How can that be prevented so the issue doesn't continue to go downstream because it'll happen again and again. And
Mm.
that is, I think, the best way to look at that because you're looking at patterns and the root causes.
Yeah, the surroundings, because it's probably came up in a group. And if you don't look at the group, the constellation, and the people in this group who are sometimes getting along with each other very well or not, it's clear that the leader actually has the how do you say this? Has to
Has
it
to
needs the
unravel,
skills.
yeah,
Yeah,
and break down the issue at
the
hand.
patterns. Hmm.
What is it? What's the trigger point? What is that root
Hmm.
cause? If we focus on addressing that root cause, then
Yeah.
we keep it from happening again and again.
Yeah, but very psychological.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of skills a leader nowadays needs to have.
Yes, yes. I think part of it is like so yes, I have that primal need. You're just making me reflect on that. I have that primal need, right, to get to that root cause because to me
Mhm.
that's important. So that's sort of a natural thing, but it really stems, if I'm going to be really honest, it stems from being lazy. And let me explain. I recall Bill Gates one time being, saying, I prefer to hire someone who is lazy and someone who is not. And sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, but I understand what you
Yes, because
your
the
point.
the person who is lazy is
Mhm.
going to don't
To
doesn't want
fix
to
it.
just be doing the same, you know, fixing the issue over and
Yeah.
over again.
Hmm.
They just want to not have the issue, so they they they're more creative and more resourceful to figure out how to fix it like once and for all and not be bothered with it again.
Yeah, that's really clever. A clever attempt. Let's going a bit deeper in your book. You explore the neuroscience of fear and the importance of managing emotions for effective decision making. Can you elaborate on how understanding emotions and thought processes can enhance leadership capabilities, particularly in navigating challenging situations? So if they are already, so we had go in another room, that's one thing, but there are more strategies, I'm sure,
Yes, yes. Well,
in your
so
book.
yes, and in the book, I defined the fear cycle, and it is you know kind of a bit of a vicious cycle, and I'm showing it here. So fear starts with some kind of event, and that event creates uncertainty, and the uncertainty seeds anxiety, and that anxiety fuels fear. Well,
Mhm,
once when you understand, again, I like to break things down so that we can understand how something leads to something else, in especially in our thinking and our behaviors, in our decision making, as well as our problem solving abilities. So when you understand it and break it down, see, once you're at the fear stage, what happens is that fear, remember how I demonstrated that, when an emotion is really high, and
mhm,
with the heart, and it bypasses the brain, and it goes directly into action. Well, the fear is going to cloud and make you look at that event in an even worse, more amplified way, which leads to more uncertainty, which
mhm,
leads to more anxiety, which leads to more fear. So it's a vicious cycle, and you need to be able to break this cycle. And the way that you break it is by breaking down and understanding this cycle, because then you start the event when it first happens. Now, instead of just saying, oh my God, I have no idea now what's going to happen, what do I do now?
mhm,
And um, so instead of what do I do now, you have already developed the way to see an event, take that pause, engage your cognitive functions, the
mhm,
brain, and then take an action. When you do that, you break this cycle. You don't have anxiety because you already know what you were going to do, or you have options, or you have backups or something. I used to travel a lot, and I got to where I just had duplicate stuff, like for my electronics, chargers, extra batteries, all that stuff. And that would stay in my luggage. So I wouldn't have to remember to, like, pack my cables and
mhm,
all of that. I just had a duplicate. So this way I would just grab my laptop. I already had the charger for the laptop, like an extra one with
mhm.
my luggage. And so that's what I mean by like backups. You make things easier for yourself if you think through them. That's developing your your map, your direction, your plan. And
Yeah, so clever. Yeah.
and think about things like well, actually, we might get to that other question because I have another really good example. I don't want to get ahead of it.
Okay, then we go to the breathing technique. So hopefully it has to do with this.
Yes, yes, and so the breathing is extremely important. But one of the things that I do want to say about this is that, um, interestingly, there are some misconceptions about mindfulness,
Mhm,
and as if mindfulness is what you achieve. through meditation and um, and in making you calm. So, and that, getting calm is about concentration. And it really is not that way. That cause and effect is not the way it works. It, um, basically, being deeply connected and grounded to who you are and what leads that is what leads you to calmness. Like I said, when you are equipped with the tools, remember the
Mhm.
cycle, the fear cycle. When you're equipped with the tools up front, you don't need to try to be mindful. You don't need to. You already are, and that is what leads to calmness. That is what leads to, you know, your ability to concentrate because you're not clouded with all that noise, of
Mhm.
uncertainty and or ambiguity. You can't really put your arms around the issue. So it's not that we learn, okay, to be resilient, this is what you have to do, or to be adaptable, you know, this is what we don't learn specifically, how to be resilient or adaptable. That will happen when you have that clarity of purpose, and the
Mhm.
clarity of purpose is what breaks through the clouds and the fog and engages your cognitive functions to work at their best and solve whatever issues. That is what leads to the calmness, and
Mindful.
calm, you can act, and you act, in the best way possible, and that's what makes you resilient. You're able to do that because you're equipped with those tools.
Yeah, because you don't run away. You focus on what is happening and try to understand to find a solution for this particular stressor or situation or whatever triggers the person. So you are equipped and you have a strategy how to make it next time in an easier way because you know what is helping you, what do you have in your toolbox to work with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very mindful way. And
Yes.
I'm completely with you with this mindfulness. It's not about nothing has to trigger me, then I'm mindful. No, there are triggers out there, and you should look at them, and you should be happy to see them, and to focus on them, and to work on them. So you get more mindful next time.
Exactly. So, if you are in a workout program and you first start with, 35 pounds of weights in, and that's the most that you can do. The more you do it, it's that's using those tools, right? The more you do it, the more you that starts to become easy, and you can add more weight. But you have to do that deliberately. So you have to put yourself in situations that are going to challenge you. That's how you get resiliency, because you challenge yourself, you work it out, and you get better, you conquer that. You're more resilient now than you were when you first got started.
Yeah, yeah, that's making a lot of sense. It's training to be um, able to get along with challenges easier and easier and
Yes, and
better.
yes, and I call that cognitive strategy, or you become strategically cognitive.
That's really great. And for this, you need the brain,
Yes.
and the heart needs also to be within.
Your heart needs to be in it. That's
Hmm.
why, even when you learn something, why do you learn some things easier than others? It's
Yeah.
because there's some innate interest. When you have that innate interest, that's your heart is in it. You want to learn, and you will. Let's say on subjects that you're like, well, when am I ever going to need this kind of class? You know, uh, other people do that with math, like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I don't need a map.
life. Yeah. Why do I'm not, what kind of job am I going to get that's going to require algebra?
Mm-hmm,
So when you look at it that way, you start questioning. It's like, well, then you start kind of ignoring or just not putting as much time into it. But here's the point though. When it comes to your cognitive abilities, your ability to do better problem solving, better decision making, and therefore become a better leader, because you first have to lead yourself before you lead others. And if
Oh,
you
I love this.
can't lead yourself, then you're going to be a lousy leader of other people.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the problem that people they learn to be a good leader for others and not for themselves. So it's somehow putting on them, or it's technical. Let's say probably, this technical stuff, you can learn the techniques, how to lead others. And but if you don't lead yourself with these techniques, you will probably never be such a good leader than when you first learn to get the strategies for yourself, the techniques, and implement them for yourself first.
Yeah, it's sort of like, if you're a chef, you would create some kind of fancy, recipe, and you can do it and give it to others. But if you're not tasting your own food, if you're not experiencing
Yeah.
it, how are you going to know? So
Hmm.
when you lead yourself first and you know that you can conquer, you know that you can, address problems or issues, and you build your own methodology to do that, now you can teach that, you can lead others. And
Hmm.
leadership is really about serving. And I truly believe that as a leader, you want to serve other people with your knowledge and your wisdom, while you're following the process for the things that you have to do as a leader, whether it's performance evaluations, whether it's, things that you have to do tactically. But
Hmm.
real leading is being able to inspire other people. And when you inspire them and grow them, like
Yeah,
whenever you have people with, if they did not grow under your leadership, then you failed as a leader.
that's a clear statement, I would say.
I just feel so convinced about that, because
Hmm.
it's then you're not a good leader.
Yeah, because if you are spinning in this fear cycle yourself and try to lead, it's impossible. It's not working. It's we are always stepping on one's toes. Yes, you
Mm.
say it like this, stepping on toes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Basically, you're fumbling. You're going to be
Yeah.
fumbling in your job as a leader.
Yeah, and then you get angry, and anger is emotion, and it gets worse. So it's so important, and it's really a fantastic book, I think, really to get yourself equipped. I love it.
Yeah.
And what about the breathing? Just to go back to the breathing thing, do you use breathing as a method or as a valuable tool or not?
Absolutely. Breathing is the best thing that you can do while you're doing that pattern interrupt. So the pattern interrupt, where there's an event, that's
Mhm.
possibly emotionally charged event that happens. Instead of getting consumed by that, you take a pause, you walk to another, room, so it's changing the environment. Breathing is another way, although it's very hard. Still, it's going to be even more challenging to try and take the deep breaths while the environment is still the same.
Yeah.
So you need the pattern interrupt. So breathing in and of itself is a pattern interrupt. Let's say you're by yourself in your office and you see an email, and it just lights you up, like gets your goat, and so instead of replying, back, with emotion, you have to, step back, breathe. And when you do box breathing, you are able to deal with challenging situations. I mean, the Navy SEALs use the breathing, the box breathing technique to handle issues when they are at their worst, like being under, going underneath a big ship, in its practically pitch dark, and you're underneath, anything can happen, and you have to complete that mission. You absolutely need to be able to stay calm, and breathing helps you stay bring down your level of anxiety, get you back to perspective. So that box breathing is crucial to
And
be
keeps
able,
you alive.
as a pattern interrupt. And exactly, in situations like those, like Navy SEALs, it it could make the huge difference of life or death.
Yeah, because if the brain doesn't get any oxygen because you're so in a frightening state, and this can happen because the blood is sinking down to your heart and the inner organs, and then, I mean, if it also doesn't get any oxygen, it's very, you can faint.
Yes,
Yes, and so
absolutely.
that's really a very good way to train yourself to handle different situations, also stage fright, it's not so dangerous, but for them, whoever experienced stage fright is really like this, you think you faint in the next moment. So you train yourself to breathe
Hmm.
through the whole body and,
Yeah,
relax.
and that gets you to that fear cycle, because you start saying,
Yeah.
oh, what if I mess up? What if
Yes.
the very important people that are going to be there, and this is like do or die for you, for your career, like
Yeah.
it's all different kinds of danger that come from thinking well, or lack of thinking, when you are
Hmm.
emotionally hijacked, and fear
Yes.
is a very strong emotion.
Yeah, so it's really very good advice to train yourself beforehand and then get to a challenge, a little one, manage it well, and train again, and next challenge, and again. You get better. So I understand the new pattern. You build actually new patterns and get stronger in what you're training yourself in. So very good. Your book, Brain Science for the Soul, takes a unique approach to leadership development by intertwining neuroscience with spiritual aspects. Could you explain how understanding the relationship between the brain and the soul can impact leadership practices in today's rapidly evolving society?
Yeah, so absolutely. There probably it I guess I can start by saying that um, our world is not going to become it's not our world will never be as slow as it is today. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
Well, it's
What
not.
are you talking?
The thing is, and that is true if you really think about it, the way things continue to accelerate and go faster and faster and faster. So from today, it'll never be as slow as it is today
Hmm.
if you're thinking ahead. It's just going to be faster. So that is a given. And uh, so so if you accept that first, then you need to work on being able to be more adaptable to things changing. If you stand rigid in the way you think, the way you make decisions and all that, you will break at some point, because you're not able to move, like soft grass versus like a mighty oak is going to break when it has enough force,
Yeah.
because it doesn't move. So, with that as a foundational thinking, there's going to be so many different challenges. So, as a leader, not only are things changing all the time, but emotions, when it comes to leadership and the soul, and in that intersection with brain science, is that you have to be able to think your way through in a compassionate way, um, for how you're going to behave, how you manage your emotions. Let's say, for example, the emotion of resentment. Resentment is one of those emotions that when when you don't address it, it will just continue to grow inside and fester. And as that happens, it starts to erode your mental clarity and your self-esteem, which damages your soul. So your soul is is the it's all of you. It's an entity that you cannot see, but it is what makes you really human. And you don't want to let things, damage your soul. But it's not just emotions. Let's say it's a social pain. So having social pain, like when social pain comes from being rejected, being ostracized, we as humans were wired from the very beginning to be social, social creatures, and we
Mm-hmm.
need to have some kind of community. When you are left out, it creates what's called a social pain, and that social pain has been there have been so many neurological research that shows brain scans that the pain in the brain that you get from social pain is in the same area as the pain signals that are excited, that you can see activated, as when you have physical pain. So
Wow.
it is real pain,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even though you don't have a physical um, cut or physical damage.
Yeah.
Uh, so that will erode your soul, because it is like who you are, your self-esteem. And if that gets eroded, that is your soul getting eroded as well. Then there's things that like other people do, or even if you do them. There's something called toxic positivity that I also write about in the book. Toxic positivity is something that started when there was the whole movement of like, oh, be positive, and that's all you have to do, just think positive. Well, it no matter how much you think positive, things don't always work out. And what happens the with toxic positivity, and that's why it earned that name, is that you'll have issues, but you sweep them under the carpet, and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, no, everything is fine. And I would meet people, and I knew they were having issues, and it's like, hey, so how are you doing? Oh, doing great, I'm just like fine. And that's because they don't want to face them, or they certainly don't want to face them with someone else. But you have to be, you can't fool yourself. You can't fool your own soul. Your soul
Yeah.
knows.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's bringing it up to the surface and really understanding, everything about you, and and what's hurting, and addressing those more head on with compassion. So and yet another one is the ego. And one of the things that I learned from, a guru that I was training with one time, is that the ego is not your amigo. the e- the
That's cool.
ego specifically is its nature is to erode the soul, because the soul will want to do the good thing, say a good
Mm-hmm.
thing. But the ego, it kind of tramples it and says, oh no, but you can be like this position, you can make, all this other money and stuff, even if the things that you have to do to get that reward may not be something that aligns with your values. And when you go against your values, you're eroding your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that are taken for granted because we're not present to it, but they are there. And if you give yourself the time and invest in yourself to learn, these systems inside of you, then you can lead your life, in a from a more solid grounding perspective, more self-aware. And the more you become self-aware, the more you can start to understanding and become aware of others around you, and you can adapt. And
Yeah.
something happens, like you can, you can be agile and switch gears.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember, not that I like want to brag, but here's a real life example. And I remember being in a car accident, and my daughter was with me, and it wasn't my fault, but you know, we were kind of we had this
Mm-hmm.
accident, and um, I not only tried to take control of the, I mean, I was driving, not only because the car went out of control, and I was trying to control it, but there was only so much I could do because we were on a highway, so
Yeah.
going at speed. So when I we finally hit and stopped, I remained calm. The first thing, "Are you okay?" I asked her, and
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it. It's like, okay, now, I get out of the car and I'm looking. Oh, then I took the next action, which was I was perpendicular, so I was able to move
Mm-hmm.
the car and get out of the way to not block more traffic and cause another accident.
Yeah.
So, in other words, I, methodically took steps instead of like, you know,
Losing
uh,
your head.
yes, exactly. Whether for anger or, other emotion, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started, and it was just so natural for me. Again, this was imagine this was like a VUCA event, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of a sudden, unexpectedly. So she told me, she says, one of the things, that I really admired is how you stay calm through that, because she observed that I was just doing it. And you know, um, I called, my husband to let him know, the cops came
Mm-hmm.
and just took care of all that business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, so it makes a huge difference in how you are able to handle problems during stressful situations. Um,
Unexpected event. Yeah,
unex-
that's wow. What a story. Oh,
Yeah, and it's and there's been, of course, many others. So I have a lot of practice in dealing with adversities and things.
yeah.
Which, by the way, is one of the things that I like to encourage, like my clients, if they are holding themselves back, encourage them with not just saying, "Hey, this is good for you," but it's more like how the fear of doing something is is never going to be as great as not having done it. So because
Yeah.
you can spend years, the rest of your life, regretting that you didn't give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different, that's putting another perspective, right, on, oh, should I go for that promotion, should I go for that
Mm-hmm.
other job, or that competition, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And think it's so great, that you talk in your book about the soul because it's really new. It's a completely new way of thinking about leadership. But it's true. If you are not nice to your soul, to yourself, you can't be nice and kind to others, and you will never understand their struggle and never be able to help them process over their struggle and get better. And what you said is so true. If you're a bad leader, you will never have great people around you. You will always have people who are not that good or
Yeah.
can't evolve in the way they should and can. So it's all about the leaders and
Mm.
such important
Yeah.
um, to address also the soul and the pain of the soul. And I'm sure after this event, this accident, there was the shock, the trauma is there, and you have to address it and release it. And because
Hmm.
it's a shock, you could have died. Your daughter could have died. So there are emotions popping up you have to address, and you have to somehow release them through the body, through your heart, and
Hmm.
clear away the
So
pain
it's
again.
interesting that you said you could have, that never occurred to me. That never,
Wow.
like that never occurs to me that like that why, like, oh, this could have, I mean, like, yes, but as soon as I, I hit and I, in other words, I was very present to what was going on
Mm-hmm.
the entire time, instead of going like, oh,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Yeah.
releasing control. I was so present that it's like, well, this is what happened.
So you no thought about what could have.
Yeah,
That's
why
amazing.
why think about those things that
Yeah.
didn't happen, and they're
Hmm.
irrelevant, and they're a waste of time, and they only serve to trigger,
The
imaginary negative.
fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they lead you
Yeah.
to fears, like, why?
Yeah, but that's really the training because every normal human, I call it normal, but I mean every not skilled human would probably
Are you
afterwards,
are you saying abnormal?
Yeah, you are abnormal because you're just too good to be true.
Hey, you know what? We're all human, and um I will fall flat on my face plenty of times. And but I also, similar to the accents, like, well, this happened.
Mhm,
Well, I screwed up. I could have given myself more time, but I didn't. So
mhm.
here we are. It's like just accepting the reality for what it is, not what it
Yeah,
could have been, not what it should have been, but
yeah,
what it is. When
yeah.
you are clear about that, then you can work at that, in real time, and not waste your time
Yes, it's
on
so
different
clever.
sorts of other things.
Yeah, it's really how you work with your brain because you understand it so well. You know exactly where, because you made this cycle, you make this process yourself, you can exactly tell with every situation, oh, now this is coming. It's not worth thinking about this or that. It's just, you're going straight to the solution. That's how it is. Let's go on.
Yeah.
Let's find a solution. And I think that's so important in the world of everything going so fast
Hmm.
that you really get to the point. How can you use your brain, your heart, your experience, your skills
Hmm.
in advantage and not in a cycle of never ending patterns that bring you more stress than relief.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
I
my gosh, the time is running fast.
Oh, I'm
Oh
sure
gosh.
we're our
Is there anything you want to tell, eh, or the top three things for
mm,
our audience to take away, or just something we missed and you really want to make it
but I guess
clear?
one of the things that is happening, to everyone right now, has to do with the um, very high speed technological advances,
Hmm.
and we are pretty much entering as a society worldwide in in harming, or rather damaging, our ability to trust. And it's in and that's true, because there's so much fake stuff out there. You and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's proliferating, so you don't know what's real and what's not. And similar to, being grounded and saying, okay, this is the situation, this is the way it is, but ensuring that you have um done your research and homework, and don't just say, oh, this is the way it is, but it's driven by some fear or some
Hmm.
bias or something, right? So you want to be clear about what happened, and or what's happening, and how that then might continue to change, or evolve, and being prepared for that. But I can tell you one thing, that as humans, no one can take away, who you are. And who you are, what you represent, your thoughts, your passions, your goals, that if you are true to that, then at least you're grounded. And you see stuff, well, that's fake. Well, it's fake, you know. Um, hopefully, you know, when you're more aware of how things can be fake, then you won't fall into a lot of traps. Whether because there's so many scams and things out there that
Yeah.
really people taken, you know, for their money or whatever, and I mean they're victimized, and that's very unfortunate. But being aware allows you to then be more have a better plan to address
Yes.
those kinds of issues. But don't lose your own ability to be human, to be compassionate, to be a good leader, leading yourself and helping others to become future leaders. So,
Yeah.
leader, you want to develop people. If they're not better than they were before you got them, then you didn't do a good job. So, your measure of success, and this is that vision of, how do you rank performance? It shouldn't be just by the financials. It should be about, how did you leave things better off than they were before.
Yes, yes, and it's so true. So many people are like, "Oh, I'm afraid of the new technology. It's going too fast, and this AI and all, they shut down." And that's actually the dangerous thing you can do because if you if you look at it closely, if you see what's going on, if you see the tricks and stuff, if you really analyze what's possible, what's not possible, and how this looks like, and where to be careful, you are some in near future be in this fear cycle.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how to get out of this, but that's a good thing to get your book and to contact you and find out, because this is really something. You have both. You have this technology knowledge and you have all your neuroscience. And that's a very good combination for today's world. So I'm so glad you were here. Thank you so much, Adriana, for your time
Thank you.
again
It's
and
been
for
a pleasure.
of so many wonderful answers and insights. I'm really blessed having you here. I appreciate also the book that you wrote.
Thank you
That's
so much.
great.
Always a pleasure.
As we conclude this enlightening conversation with Adriana Vela, it's evident that understanding the intricate workings of the human brain is not just a fascinating exploration, but a crucial asset for navigating the complexities of leadership in our ever changing world. Adriana's insights have shed light on how integrating neuroscience with leadership principles can empower us to lead with greater empathy, resilience, and effectiveness. I urge you to seize the opportunity to delve deeper into Adriana's teachings by acquiring a copy of her book. It's not just an investment in your leadership journey, it's a transformative guide that will equip you with the tools needed to thrive in today's dynamic landscape. Thank you again, Adriana, for sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us on this interesting exploration. If you like to start reading right away, you can get the first 3 chapters for free on her website. The recording of this interview will be available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com at Ganz in Bewegung. Follow us for more content to come. All the best, take care, and let us know how you found the event.